We are so far removed from the idea of America and its minarchism written in the United States Constitution, where we have to bring her back to where she belongs. Thank you for listening to this episode of Chasing Life, Liberty, and Minarchy. Weird position in an episode of Chasing Life, Liberty, and Minarchy. It is Monday. I'm not fooling you. It is Monday. And the day is May 4th. And I figured, right, we could do a twofer here, right? One, not a lot of people know about this show on Sunday. And I didn't get a chance to record it yesterday for many reasons. So I figured since there is no federal news for the fifth estate, I'll record this episode today. Those of you that are new to this show, new to Torture Liberty Media Foundation platform, I welcome you, all of that good stuff. This particular show airs on Sundays at 8 p.m., Chasing Life, Liberty, and Minarchy, and it says what it says. This is my personal flagship. This is my belief system on display, complete full vulnerability, right? And how I believe this country can be ran and should be ran. Now, those of you that don't understand Minarchy, I would suggest going back to last June on our Rumble page, or you can check it, or you can go to Chasing Life, Liberty, and Minarchy on any of your podcast platforms that you may get this from, or if you listen on the live airwaves through our iHeartRadio app, etc. You can find it on iHeartRadio too. So, with that being said, those of you coming in on the crash course we're actually on episode 5 of 8 of this series, called Beyond the Shield. And what we're doing, we've in the previous series we developed the Shield of Liberty, and it's all based around the non-aggression axiom and all of that good stuff. But we won't get into that here because that'll take up all the time that we have here. First and foremost, I want to make sure you guys that are watching visually, please do me the solid. Make sure you go over Torch of Liberty Media Foundation. Make sure you go check us out over there, torchoflibertymedia.com. That's the page for the actual head of the nonprofit. But more importantly, the flagship project of Torch of Liberty Media Foundation is the Ninth Amendment Project, where we protect, stand on business, as the cool kids say, stand 10 toes down on the Ninth Amendment, because rights are retained by the people. Those that are not enumerated in the said Constitution of the United States are the rights retained by the people. And it's all those unenumerated rights that people seem to forget about. They pass on. They don't understand what they are. And we got to get back down to basics to understand. People have to understand what their rights really are. What does that mean, right? So please check us out over here at ninthamendmentproject.org. A bit of information over there you might want to check out, and if you want to join us, there's clickies and thingies and all that good stuff there. Again, that's ninthamendmentproject.org, the number 9th amendmentproject.org. Now we're going to get here and get back down to business, which I came here for. Again, newcomers, I'm glad you're here. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, all that stuff with your social media peeps and all that good stuff. I appreciate it. So I want you to think about this a second. They tell you that Money is just paper, right? They tell you it's a social construct, it's a government instrument, right? A tool of the state, a shared hallucination that keeps the gears of the great machine turning. But they're lying to you. Money isn't paper. It isn't a construct. It isn't an instrument of the government. Money is time, people. Time is money, and money is time. We've heard that before, but I twisted it around for a reason, right? Because just understand, every dollar you hold is a physical representation of an hour you spent away from your family. It's the sweat on your brow during a double shift. It's the mental energy you poured into a project when you should have been sleeping. It is the literal biological output of your life. But when the state reaches into the economy and prints another trillion units of currency, they aren't just managing the macro economy, they are retroactively stealing the time you've already lived. They are diluting, right, the value of your past labor to fund their future expansion. Right? If y'all remember the Shield of Liberty series, I had to bring this up because it just struck me. Episode 6 hit me upside the head from the Shield of Liberty series. Right? If the Shield of Liberty protects your body from a blow, but allows the state to drain the lifeblood of your labor through a printing press, the shield is broken, isn't it? You can't be a free person if you don't own the value of your own time. But today, I'm gonna give you the solution. You know, we talk solutions on this here, right? We're gonna stop the leak. Today, we talk about the bedrock of the whole thing, right? We've built. Remember the last series, Should Liberty, right? We built that. Our minds, our thoughts. We built that in our minds, right? We secured the community through mutual aid, right? We reclaimed the courtroom through private justice. But there is still a silent technical leak in the perimeter that most people never see until it's too late, right? Inflation is often discussed as a natural phenomenon, right? We're always fighting about inflation. It's 2.1, 2.2, 10, 12 elemental P percent, right? But let's flip them. Let me flip this on you. Inflation is civil asset forfeiture without a court order. I'll say it again for the people that didn't catch it the first time. Inflation is civil asset forfeiture without a court order. Think about it. It's the state reaching into your pocket and stealing the most precious thing you own. I bet you that light bulb turned on, didn't it? This evening, though, we will always go beyond the shield and we're going to explore, as the title says, sound money, stable liberty. Right? We're moving from what I call the fiat discretion. Some of you've heard me talk about the fiat discretion before, of a central bank to the fixed standards of a free market. And you know I'm not an econ guy, but some things just make sense. Some things just make sense. And we're going to get into that. Now, I want you to sit back and think about it, right? The mechanics of the debasement of us money and our labor, right? I want you to understand the threat. We have to look at the quantity theory of money. Simply put, when I read that, simply put, right, it's when supply of money increases faster than the supply of goods, the value of each unit drops, right? I mean, that's basic, right? And I read that definition in an econ book, and I was like, why are you telling me something fancy instead of saying, hey, they print more money, it devalues the product and service. Hello, right? That's how basic I am. I'm not an econ guy, right? Um, but obviously we know that that's true, right? That, that when money, right, when money is sound, right, meaning the supply is fixed, it encourages what's called a low time preference. You save for the future because your money retains value, right? This is the bedrock of civilization, right? Even to the barter system, right? But when the state abandons the high time preference, as the US did in 1971 with Nixon, it forces society into a high time preference, right? Well, let me take that back. I got those twisted. See, I'm not an econ guy, right? So don't mind me, right? The state abandoned the commodity standard. See, I was going to say it the other way, right? The the state, the United States abandoned the commodity standard, right? The Nixon shot forced us into a high time preference. So, if in that example, if your money is melting, you stop saving and start consuming, right? You take on debt because you'll pay it back in cheaper dollars, right? That's the analogy I was kind of going for. Y'all forgive me. Again, I'm not the econ guy here, right? But it just, these things make sense. I mix up terms. I'm sorry. But again, this is part and parcel of, being, economics among the people, right? But anyway, we're going to move on from that, right? Now, in our state, right, that we've created, this minarchist state we've created, the state is stripped of its legal tender monopoly, right? We return to the actual logic of Article 1, Section 10. Do y'all remember off the top of your head Article 1, Section 10 of the United States Constitution? You want to take a stab at it in the comments? Or if you're on iHeartRadio, go ahead and hit the talk back button. You can hit that and talk back to me, and I can pull those in on a later show in reference. But those of you, do y'all remember what Article 1, Section 10 says? So let's go here, right? Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1 says no state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque and reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, making anything but gold and silver coin a tender in debts and payments, pass any bill of attainder ex post facto law, or law impairing the obligation of contracts, or grant any title of nobility. hmm Right? So basically, in essence, right? Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1 says it basically forbids the states from making anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payments and debts, right? And as minarchists, we recognize money in this regard as a private contract, right? The state's only role is to ensure that if a bank promises a specific asset, they actually have it, right? And this and this is why, again, right? This is why most of us are anti Fed, right? We have to shift from using the political money of the federal government or the Federal Reserve to the contract money of the market, gold and silver. We have to go back there, right? Now I'm gonna talk about something that's very important, and if I miss some pieces, forgive me, right? Because again, I just have bullet points, on my screen here, and just kind of remembering what I was going to talk about yesterday, so it's not fresh in my mind, fresh. But again, here we are, right? Because these are my thoughts, these are my raw thoughts, right? There's no script or anything like that. It's just my raw thoughts off of my head, trying to explain Minarchy to everyone, right? Now, when we talk about getting away from the political currency of the Fed, right, and going private, we're gonna have opponents to that, right? We're gonna have opponents because how are we gonna base the value of the money or the value of the gold, et cetera, without federal dollars or government involvement, right? And my answer back to them will always be, you do understand this is a liberty issue, right? And it's a liberty issue based on the Cantillon effect, right? This is the technical reality that new money does not enter the economy evenly, right? It's a first mover advantage that creates a permanent underclass, right? For example, let's look at asset inflation, right? The first recipients of newly printed money, the state and its primary dealer banks get to spend that money at today's prices, right? They use this fresh money to buy up hard assets, real estate, and commodities, right? And by the time the money filters down to us, to you, the prices for those assets have already skyrocketed, right? You aren't bad with money. You are being outpaced by a printing press, right? Now, let me put this in federal government speak, okay? Let me go there with it, right? We see this in what's called QE, right? Quantitative easing, right? And the operations of the FOMC, yeah, FOMC, right? And these are the centralized mechanisms that picks winners, right? Usually, like those that are like closest to the state, and the losers to those who work for a wage, right? And this concept violates the neutrality of the shield, right? That we talked about last episode, right? This the neutral it violates neutrality of the shield. It shouldn't be used to block or to be offensive, right? The state, right, doesn't need to pass a tax hike, right? They don't need to pass a tax hike to fund the bureaucracy. If it can just simply devalue your savings to pay for it, right? Not only is inflation civil asset forfeiture, it's a tax without a vote. That's correct, Ms. Cheryl. Inflation wouldn't exist. Government inflation is a government tool to control money. And so, in essence, right, without getting into the true nuance, it's basically what it is on its face, right? So now, when we talk about this newly found right, right, the architecture of the monetary consent is comes into question, right? We must, in this regard, there's this architecture of the monetary consent, right? We have to decouple the shield, which is the state, right, from the ledger, the money, right? Because let's think about this a second, right? The financial surveillance state, right? Under the bank, like the bank secret, the bank secrecy act. I'm trying to be bougie. I'm also the bank secrecy act, sir. No, it's the bank secrecy act and the AML KYC regulations, right? Your bank is technically a snitch, right? Every transaction you make is permitted by a central authority that can freeze your assets without a trial, right? Think about that. It's like I know that we all know that, but I had to say it that way to really hit you with that, right? Your bank is a snitch. Every dollar you take out, every dollar you put in, it's a permission for you to take it out or put it in. It's not your money, right? And if you had a bad transaction, you deposited $5 more than $600, well, guess what? They can freeze your whole bank account and keep your money without a trial. Talk about a violation of the Fourth Amendment, right? Violation of property rights, right? See, this is why in our society that we've created, our minarchist society, right? We have to return to the principle of free banking, right? Because remember, in our minarchist state, the state provides the courtroom to settle the dispute over the currency contracts, but it does not dictate what the currency is, right? When the government dictates what the currency is, the courts are bought and sold, right? Think about that. The courts are bought and sold at that point, right? It's like bankruptcy law, like bankruptcy law, right? The bank, the government controls the currency and they control the courts. They will pick the winner and loser depending on how their legal tender was used, right? Hmm. See, doesn't matter, right? With this court, right? In our minarchist state, whether you contract in gold backed notes, decentralized digital assets, cryptocurrency, or a basket of commodities, right? It is a voluntary choice, right? This actually forces a state to live within its means and restore monetary privacy, right? Now, I have to explain. Monetary privacy is the idea, right, that what you do with the fruits of your labor is your business alone, right? Kind of Fourth Amendment thing, right? Kind of new word I kind of throw in there. In closing, right? Money is more than just paper or bits on a screen. Money is time. And when the state inflates the currency, they are retroactively taxing your past labor to fund their current expansion. As the title says, right? Sound money is the only way to ensure the life and our title is actually yours to keep. So I have a test for y'all. I have a test for y'all during the week. Look up the purchasing power of the dollar since 1913. And then go look up the term seigniorage. Was it SEIGNORAGE. Understand, right? When you look up that word, right? Understand that the profit the government makes by printing money is directly subtracted from the value of your hard work. Remember, the shield protects your body, but the sound money protects your achievement. Don't let the state print away your future. Remember, join us for episode 6 next Sunday, 8 p.m. I promise this time. I promise. Where we start looking at the final pieces of this, right? We're going to talk about self-defense and the second shield when it comes to that. I want you guys to remember, love your neighbors, love your family, but ultimately love yourself. Until next time. Remember, tomorrow, Tuesday, the experience today, me and Miss Val. I don't know what it is yet. I always say that. I'll know tomorrow at some point. But until then, stay cool, stay frosty, and remember, we're only one generation away from losing liberty. So stand on that always. Until next time, peace and love, everybody.